Hey everyone, welcome back to the Market Hustle podcast. Today, we have a very special one lined up for you. We actually got to sit down with Vlad Tenev, the CEO of Robinhood, and talk over his vision and goals for the company in the future. We got to ask Vlad about some of his goals with online banking, with crypto, and even expanding global access to Robinhood beyond the United States. This was our first ever in-person podcast episode in the heart of New York. And what better way to kick it off with the CEO of a company that's helped millions of investors get access to the stock market for the first time. That being said, let's waste no more time. We really enjoyed this episode. I think you're going to as well. So let's jump into it. Vlad, thanks for having us here. It's an honor to sit down with you. Really looking forward to diving into some questions. But first, I'm kind of curious. You've been executing quite a bit the last couple of months, and truly it's been impressive just to see what Robinhood has done. And really, I'm more curious because just what you guys have kind of unleashed with Robinhood banking, Robinhood strategies, and of course, Robinhood Cortex and even Legion. I'm curious, what does a typical day look like with your role as CEO of Robinhood?
Usually it's wake up, look at my phone, see if there's any emergencies that are happening. If not, then we've kind of recently been having a lot of product events. So you guys have probably seen the Robinhood Gold event where we announced banking and launched strategies. We have a crypto event next week. We have Hood Summit, which is our new active trader event. That's coming back this year. And then even last week we tried this new virtual event where we wanted to do something that was in between just launching a product with a blog post and a tweet and having like a highly produced, very expensive event that's at a physical place. So we did this virtual only event, which was me and one of our product leaders talking about a new product on live stream and kind of demoing it. So those have been getting more frequent. So a lot of my time is spent just like working with the teams, refining the story, figuring out what's going to be presented at these events, and just actually doing it. And once I do it, moving on to the next one.
Well, first off, it's impressive. And so I can only imagine just the pressure and maybe even the stress that you have to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Those are fun, though. There's obviously a certain amount of stuff that you have to deal with that only you can deal with. If there's a big problem, I kind of gravitate toward the big problems. But I think solving problems is fun. Launching products is fun. So I've been able to make it so that I spend a lot of time on things that I enjoy too.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Well, what's really stood out to me with Robinhood, it's not the, zero trading, no fees, or even the easy to use app that you guys have, which is obviously incredible. But it's really just the access that you've opened up to the millions of investors that might have never started investing to begin with if Robinhood didn't exist. We have a lot of the traditional brokerage firms that I think just have a lot of friction. And what I really appreciate about Robinhood is how you guys have made it easy to actually get started, even if you don't really come from a background of investing or money.
Yeah.
And truly, it's the mission the Market Hustle's on, where we try to help people who feel lost or kind of confused or overwhelming with how money works and try to simplify it. And it's just nice that Robinhood has actually created tools to take action on what people are learning, whether it's through other podcasts or our own podcasts, and actually apply those. So yeah. I truly appreciate everything you've done and the work you've done at Robinhood.
Well, I appreciate what you guys are doing too, because now it used to be that to get information and knowledge about investing, you had, CNBC, you'd watch Jim Cramer, Mad Money, or a handful of other shows, and there wasn't really much. That was pretty much it. But now, you have you guys and a whole bunch of other content creators. A lot of people are doing incredibly deep research with our tools and then disseminating it to millions of people via the internet. So it kind of makes our job easier because we have people that are educated and informed, and they're looking for the best place to transact. And I think we hope to fill that role for the vast majority of people.
That's awesome. I love it. What would you say, I'll just kind of kick it off with this as well. What would you say you notice people misperceive or get wrong about what you're building and Robinhood in general?
I think most people are probably 2 to 3 years at least behind with what Robinhood is. They still perceive us as kind of the meme stock newbie investor app. But just in the past few years, we've rolled out a great credit card product. I think it's the best credit card on the market. You mentioned banking, and that's kind of the evolution of that is credit card, but then you'll direct deposit your paycheck, you'll get your cash delivered so you never have to go to the ATM. We'll bring all the banking services to you digitally. You have a world-class, I think best-in-class retirement product, Robinhood Strategies, which I think is the best-in-class digital advisor. So Robinhood is rapidly evolving from just a trading app for beginners into a full-featured financial ecosystem that, every dollar that you have can be, every asset that can be held in Robinhood, every financial transaction can go through Robinhood. And even on the active trader side, with Robinhood Legend and the mobile charts we rolled out last week, some of the new options features, I think we're rapidly becoming the best place for active traders, where if you're an active trader and you're actually at the height of sophistication, the idea is that you would feel like you're at a disadvantage using any other product. And that's what we're building towards, and we're rapidly growing market share in that category as well.
So is Robinhood turning into a full digital bank, or what's the plan with that?
I think that when you say bank, at least to me, there's a connotation of being really slow moving, being like under a federally regulated bank charter. And Robinhood is neither of those things. What we do is we actually partner with banks, and they compete with each other to offer the best rates and the best service for our customers. So I'll give you an example. We wanted to help customers when rates went up with saving their money. Yeah. So we offer one of the highest rates on cash in the market. And we don't do that with a charter. We actually find the best banks out there and work with them to actually distribute your money. And you get not only the best rates, but you get multiples of the FDIC protection. If you're with one bank, you get 250,000.
That's right.
But not enough for some people. Yeah. And if you go through our service, it's over 2.5 million in FDIC.
Wow.
Mortgages, another example. Last week we started a mortgage pilot, and our customer base is so valuable to these banks and mortgage providers that they would be willing to compete and offer amazing deals just for like top billing. And so, now we're piloting some of the best mortgage rates ever. I mean, if you look at our mortgage pilot, that's going to be a hard rate to beat for most people. So
no.
Yeah, I think we offer those services without actually being a bank ourselves.
Is that fully launched already, the mortgages? Or
it's a pilot.
Oh, it's a pilot. Okay.
Yeah, so it's live to a portion of people, but it went live a week ago. So
got it.
We're kind of learning. We like to try things. We'll see how it goes, and over time, I think early read is pretty good. We'll probably roll out something more broad there.
Going back to what you were talking about, active traders. I'm an active trader myself, and I went to the summit last year.
Amazing.
My question is, you have futures, you have options, and you have Robinhood Legend. I was able to get the first access into Robinhood Legend, and I love it. But I wasn't able to trade futures.
Yeah.
Is that coming?
It's coming, yeah.
Okay, awesome.
The goal this year is to round out the product suite with all assets and capabilities. So, I mean, we've been hearing a lot about futures. Obviously, that's, on our radar. A lot of customers still want shorting, even though we have options and you can go short with futures. Shorting of equities has been something that's been requested. For a while, people were talking about charts being better on mobile, and I think we've delivered that. Yeah. So there's just a lot of things that remain for us to do, even though we've launched all these products.
What's coming long-term wise? Like, what's your vision for that? Like, I know futures are coming soon, but at some point, are we going to have a full-on being able to have 4 screens, professional, like integrate professional tools into it, like AI, our own AI, or our own professional tools that we can do high frequency? Is that also coming, or is it?
Well, what I'll tell you is we're really thinking, we're getting into the heads of our active trader customers. We're spending a lot of time with them. And I think that Robinhood will probably be the first place you see AI technologies integrated into active trader products in a form that people actually want to use and adds value. I don't think any of the other active trader products are thinking about this. So there is going to be another Hood Summit. We're planning it later this year. The last one was successful.
It was.
But yeah, the goal is to make each Hood Summit better than the last with more exciting products launched that actually help active traders. So definitely stay tuned for that.
Nice.
So my question actually ties into his, and a lot of times when people hear about Robinhood, the first thing that comes to mind is, okay, equity markets, right? Followed by, we have crypto now, and then banking, which seems to be a heavy segment that the team is going into. And you just mentioned some of the exciting projects and tools that are coming. In your opinion, which one is the most transformative that would probably have a very high significant impact on its users?
There are some things that we're working on that we haven't announced yet, which is very exciting to me because, I get to see all the stuff that's, cooking in the hopper. And we try to have things at all cycles. Some things that are recently rolled out that we feel good about scaling to 9-figure businesses. That's things like futures, prediction markets, the credit card. Then there's some things earlier stage, and then there's things that we haven't rolled out. And I think for the first time in recent history, the pipeline is full across the board. So I think there's going to be a constant stream of new products rolling out that meet customer needs. If I had to put it in categories, though, I'd tell you, I think we're at the frontier of AI in financial services and also in crypto. And those are the things that are going to be changing our industry most acutely over the next 5 years. And I think Robinhood's going to increasingly roll out experiences there that change people's perception and the way they use their financial services.
Yeah. And speaking of a full pipeline, what are some of the things you guys actually do or think through in terms of, okay, we have a lot happening here. We're looking to add a little bit more and meet this unmet need that, traders, investors, everybody alike can benefit from. What are some of the opportunity areas you guys are identifying over time?
I think I put it in 3 buckets. There's the active trader work stream, which ends in us. I mean, it never really ends, but the goal is to be the place where active traders do all their trading and they would feel like they're at a disadvantage using any other platform. And I think in this area is where you see us pushing the boundaries of technology. So you'll see a lot of AI. You'll see things like 24-hour market, where we'll actually give you access to new tradable assets at times that, in ways that aren't available elsewhere. So I think we're going to continue to push on that. We're going to make options, index options better and better. Futures are going to be better. Robinhood Legend's going to continue to get better. You'll have Robinhood Cortex kind of integrating into everything. So I think that's near term. Medium term, we've got being number one in wallet share for the next generation. And that means you should be able to deposit your paycheck in Robinhood, have all of your money in Robinhood, and basically you should never have to withdraw money from it unless you're actually spending it at a merchant, right? And I think we're getting to the point where you can, by and large, do that. I mean, we're missing a couple of things. Banking needs to roll out, and that's a critical piece. But, once we have the best banking service out there, you'll really not have much reason to have your assets leave Robinhood. And then long term, I'd say this is our 10-year arc. I call it number one global financial ecosystem, is us expanding from US only to fully global and from retail only to business and institutional. And that kind of, that'll dramatically grow what people and institutions can expect from Robinhood, because the institutional market is big and broad, and there's literally billions of people that don't live in the US that would like to have access to the things we're offering.
Great point. And that's actually exciting because, to your point, there are millions and billions of people over the world that are learning. And you think, the good news is with technology advancement, we're able to connect via podcast, right, on social media and so forth. So people are learning, they're excited, they're curious.
And they're getting wealthier. Many decades ago, these folks didn't even have access to functional banking systems. They didn't have any disposable income. But rapidly that's changing.
So it's exciting to see
countries and I think also South America, Africa eventually will come online, and it'll be billions of people. So that's going to become very exciting.
That's nice. That's really exciting, because I think for me, I've been using Robinhood for 10 plus years now, and I've kind of had the luxury to experience the evolution over that time period. And so for, those people that are in different countries that don't have access yet, and it's nice to hear that you guys are planning on, actually, in terms of your long-term plan, is a big push to, get more access to those that would need that. And so my question is, what are some of the unique challenges that you face in trying to go ex-US in all these other regions? Because I'm sure each market or each country have its own jurisdiction, rules, regulations, things you have to comply with. What are some of the challenges there?
I think getting local licensure is necessary in a lot of places. I mean, we're kind of pursuing a regional hub strategy where we try to serve an entire region from one place. But still, for the big markets, they have their own local regulator, and you need to get local licensure to be able to market and to actually talk about what you're building, and in some cases, even to offer product. So getting licensed everywhere and doing that in a scalable way. Having good local funding mechanisms, so good local ways to put money into your account. In the US, that's ACH, right? There's debit card. But in Europe, it's like a different standard. In some of the Asian countries, it's digital banking or sort of like government-sponsored payments interfaces. All of that's sort of idiosyncratic. And then, another piece is there's usually local retirement wrappers and incentive structures. So in the US, we have IRAs. In the UK, for example, there's ISAs and SIPs. And so those things tend to be country specific. Also, there's a lot of pride in some places about investing in their own stocks. So the UK has a pretty vibrant, London-based stock exchange. Hong Kong, they have a market. So over time, the goal would be to integrate with all of these, have one unified platform where if we make things better for, a customer in the UK, that automatically accrues to customers in the US. Okay. And that way we don't have to spend a lot of resources and have complex ROI discussions when we're building features, because everything just accrues to the global market in terms of value. I think that's what's gotten really difficult internationally for a lot of companies. If you're a traditional broker or bank, going into another country basically meant rebuilding everything. You have to have a physical presence, a branch office, an entirely new team, people that, marketed in the local language because they were doing a lot of the marketing via brick and mortar or billboards or direct mail. So it was very costly. And if you built something for a particular market, it tended to be pretty idiosyncratic. So you couldn't take it back to the US and offer it to customers there. I think our approach was very different from the beginning.
Wow, that's impressive. So the synergy aspect of it is a really important goal, seems like, for Robinhood. And I can imagine, especially in Africa specifically, I come from Ghana, West Africa, so access and resources and the infrastructure is not, nearly up there where it needs to be to increase that access. And to kind of see what Robinhood is doing and the vision you have for the company is really impressive.
Yeah, and I think crypto can help with that. I mean, you're seeing a lot of talk about stablecoin. There's stablecoin legislation working its way through Congress right now. Market structure is also closely following. But what that'll allow is that's going to be the technological frontier for all sorts of investments and for holding US dollars. And you've seen stablecoins in particular. They're an early kind of indicator of this. Very popular internationally for people that want to get access to dollars. It's become the best way to get access to dollars, somewhat counterintuitively. And I think in the same way, tokenization can give people access to US assets through crypto technology.
Wow.
So that will be the vector by which a lot of the world sees US products and high quality investments for the very, very first time.
Vlad, I'm curious, just to kind of zoom in with the tokenization, have you seen some pilot programs, or have you even tested things out yourself to tie different assets that maybe aren't accessible to people to crypto? I think a lot of our audience, and maybe even some of the misconceptions I see, is people, when they think of crypto, they think of meme coins, or they think of just Bitcoin. They don't realize or understand maybe the different utilization tools, kind of like what you just explained. But maybe if you can help us dive deeper into like the tokenization and what you see there, I'd love to hear.
Frankly, there's been a lot of talk and not a huge amount of action, including from me and from some of our competitors recently. Everyone's talking about it. I think the next step is going to be to deliver products into people's hands that they can actually use. I think due to lack of regulatory clarity, it's not going to be in the U.S. first. The U.S. at this point is falling a little bit. It's a little bit behind Europe and the rest of the world, where there are clear rules. But also tokenization, in the same way that stablecoin is useful to ex-US, it in a larger way. I think it's probably fine for that to come from the outside and come into the US later, at least for some time. I think the US will eventually wrap their heads around the benefits, and the industry will show that it's a big improvement, both for efficiency and for customer experience, and it'll make its way here as well.
Where do you see like the biggest benefit in your eyes? Like, do you see it in like the private sector, where your average investor might not have access to investing in these private markets or with startups? Or do you see something else of like where these tokenizations can be fully implemented? I'm just curious, like to see. Yeah, I've heard like art as well as being a possible utilization. But yeah, would love to hear that.
I think that's going to be the biggest impact in the US will be illiquid assets that aren't otherwise available, because the US already, it's pretty easy through Robinhood to invest in public stocks. So it'll just be about making things available that are not possible using traditional rails. Ex-US, probably the biggest impact will be public stocks, which are very hard to access when you're not in this country.
Interesting, fascinating.
So do you see crypto as not necessarily getting rid of the US dollar, but like being a companion to it? Or is it going to be like a world centralized, like going back to like the token thing, it's going to be a world centralized token? Is it going to be backed by the US dollar or the government, or what do you see this as, like, where do you see this going?
I think crypto is more of a technology. I think one of the reasons why many people consider crypto to just be meme coins and Bitcoin is it's basically been illegal to connect crypto to things of value. So once that's legal, you'll see it connected to things of value. And I think meme coins will become a smaller and smaller percentage of the utility. So I think crypto and traditional financial services are going to fully merge. It'll be one and the same. Crypto will be like saying cloud.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not going to be a different element. Crypto will be powering traditional financial services under the hood. So they'll be one and the same.
Is this like a sink or swim moment? Like you gotta hop on, or is it like? Because I know my dad, for instance, and me too. I don't own any crypto. I'm very traditional in the sense that I like precious metals, stocks and whatnot. So it's just like am I gonna have to do this in my lifetime? Or do you see that?
I think it'll happen for you without you even having to think about it.
Really?
Like in the same way that maybe you don't think about if you send someone $5 that it's going through the ACH system, or
that's true.
Someone's submitting a wire.
Yeah.
Maybe soon there will be a stablecoin transaction in there somewhere between two banks, and you'll just see it that it's becoming gradually easier to send money. Like maybe you're used to sending money to people in the U.S. Now you could just put in a phone number and send it to people outside of the U.S. and that'll be just as easy. So it'll be things like that where, by and large, the crypto aspect of this will be behind the scenes, and you'll just be able to. It'll feel like
that's
cool on the
left.
left.
Okay.
I'm curious to know, like, has there been, because there's been a lot of like market volatility recently. I'm curious to know, like, what do you know about like any behavioral shift happening right now with traders? Do you see any change from like, maybe stocks to crypto, or like what have you seen? What have you observed recently?
Yeah, certainly if you look on a year-over-year basis, crypto is much higher. But stocks have been having a little bit of a moment too. And I think our customers tend to be focused on innovation stocks. So a lot of interest in stablecoin related names and fintech in general, as you might not be surprised. AI, Tesla, Nvidia are huge names. a lot of people want exposure to that. Clean energy, nuclear, it's the frontier things that get disproportionate interest from Robinhood users because our customers are tech savvy, they're also young, and they're investing in things with an eye toward what the future economy is going to look like.
Yeah, innovation.
And, that hasn't changed very much despite Iran conflict and all of this macro stuff. People are still buying stocks that they believe will represent the future.
Got it. Is that happening for Robinhood right now for the stock?
I don't know if I can...
To the extent you can share.
That's the one stock, besides stocks that we've IPO'd, that I can't give you too much color on. But I'll tell you that Robinhood's a fintech. It's highly innovative, and those tend to be the categories that retail investors that are tech savvy
My question was more like, are they viewing Robinhood as the innovation of banking? Does that make sense? So like,
I think our customers are pretty impartial. I do think we tend to be viewed as innovative, but like they also view our competitors as innovative. I mean, you see it. Some of the top stocks, they're looking at the entire sector. So I don't think we can get complacent. I think we always have to just compete on making sure we're offering the best product and services.
I feel like, I mean, even in my eyes, like I've noticed a shift in just the way you guys have been executing over the last year alone. Again, it's been impressive, kind of like what I opened up with. I'm curious though, maybe you can share some insights around maybe like internally, if you can, around what's kind of shifted or changed. Because to me, Robinhood kind of feels like a different company than even a couple years ago. Like, do you have any insights you could share with like maybe some of the key learnings you've had as the CEO of Robinhood and how you're maneuvering and organizing your teams?
I mean, I think one of the things that's been underappreciated is the impact that AI has had internally. If we look at software engineering, which is probably the highest leverage function, because without software engineering, we just don't build stuff. AI adoption and the degree to which it's changed the entire workflow of an engineer, it's been like nearly total change in the day-to-day of an engineer. I don't know if you guys have played with some of these AI engineering tools like Cursor or Replit, but what it can do is it can allow a non-engineer to write a very sophisticated software product. Now imagine what it can do to a sophisticated engineer. It sort of gives you like a significant boost in your capabilities. So I think those things under the hood have been contributing to us growing revenue and shipping products while keeping OpEx generally pretty flat. I mean, it's up a little bit, but definitely not as much as revenue. And I think ultimately that's the formula to growing shareholder value over time. If you can increase your revenues at a much higher slope than your costs can go up, then that net income ultimately drives the value of your company. And if it doesn't, let's say sometimes it gets disconnected and you've got companies that are printing more and more net income, but their stocks are flat. And eventually that doesn't work too, because they'll just use the net income to buy their own stock. And we've been doing a buyback as well. So really the secret is just increasing net income dramatically over time.
Gotcha. Wow. Powerful. So a quick question. So with the technology, the advancement, the portfolios or the productivity, things that are coming out, tools, everything carries a risk, right? And so what are some of the areas where you think, okay, yes, we're putting out products, we're putting out great tools for everyone to use, but we have to make sure we're keeping in mind some of these risks, whether it is to Robinhood specific or just the industry in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we used to talk a lot about risk management and the importance of it. And I think this was around the time we were having, GameStop and all these issues where, maybe it indicated that we had work to do, a lot of maturation to do. And that was, when we were a private company before we went public. I think we invested a lot in it and it's become part of the fabric. So there's so many things that I think a good company just has to do in order to have the ability to innovate. You have to have good infrastructure. You have to have an amazing team. You have to have good risk management, good procedures and policies that keep you safe while keeping you efficient. I think we've been improving those gradually over time. And then we do some innovative stuff there, but I think it's just part of the expectation of being a excellent Robinhood teammate. You have to just like take care of all of the details, and you can't just skimp on any of that stuff, even though it might not be building an innovative new product. It's core to everything that we do.
So Robinhood for the younger investors. I just turned 23. I've been investing for a few years now. You guys are like the staple of like, like personally, I use Vanguard. And so because the way I looked at it, when I first started investing was that, no disrespect to you, but Robinhood was doing this crypto stuff and whatever. Yeah. And so now looking at it, you guys are getting up there to be, players with Vanguard, Fidelity and whatnot. And you guys are looked at in the same category. For like the younger investors, you guys are gaining that trust. How does that look for the next, for the next generation, the generation after me?
Yeah. So you're a Gen Z, right?
Yeah.
So generation.
Yeah.
Generation after you is Gen Alpha, right? So that's like my kids.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, and they're interested in stocks and crypto and all of this stuff. I think the challenge that we have, or something we need to work on actually, is that Robinhood up until now is only available if you're over 18.
Exactly.
I think the question is how can we serve the entire family, including kids when they're younger? Actually, there's this cool thing that I'm involved in, Invest America. Okay. And it's a new initiative. It's part of the BBB, the Big Beautiful Bill, if you guys have heard that. Yeah. It's the reconciliation bill making its way through Washington right now. Yeah. And this is kind of the most non-controversial part of it. Both Democrats and Republicans agree with the premise that the Invest America Act should go through. And basically what that does is every new baby born in this country would get $1,000 funded in a brokerage account. And it would be essentially passively invested in a broad-based market index fund. And, it would just be ad only. So there would be incentives for parents or, people from your church to add money to this investment account. Oh, wow. And so you sort of like get to see the magic of compounding and get to plug in these babies into the market from from
I need to have a few babies now.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's pretty amazing. So, I think Robinhood we actually have a front end that we demonstrated. I think it was pretty good. We're ready to go for that. And I think the goal would be to get it out in advance of the 250th anniversary of the country, which is coming up next year. Nice. So I think everyone will have to get access to the stock market. I think the government also understands this, and I think the tailwinds will be towards more and more access to stocks and other investments.
Yeah. Would you say that Robinhood is leading that? Do you guys want to lead that part, or like take part of the start of the $1,000? I think it's $1,000 for every child. Yeah. In the Big Beautiful Bill.
Well, there's a lot of people involved. There was an event at the White House hosted by the president. Michael Dell from Dell Computer was there. Dara from Uber. Yeah, many CEOs. And I think we were there representing retail brokerage. And a lot of these folks dedicated resources, their own financial resources, to funding these accounts, funding them for their employees. I think our value could be we could provide the technology and the interface. So I don't know if we'll be the exclusive partner, but I think that our goal would be to build a compelling offering to make sure that, these families get access to the accounts in the best possible and smoothest way at the lowest cost.
Yeah. And that kind of leads to my question as well, because I would say this is kind of tied in with these accounts, like if they do occur, and maybe even if Robinhood can actually, be the custodial of these accounts. Over the next 25 years, it's estimated that around $120 trillion is going to be transferred over to younger generations. So there's an incoming massive wealth transfer going to be occurring. And I'm curious how you see that as the CEO of Robinhood, and how you plan to potentially help customers who maybe never had experience investing at all. And I'm sure maybe you can touch on if you think these accounts, like these $1,000 accounts, would actually help kind of ease that transition, since they'd already be open, and maybe parents who get an inheritance would be able to maybe fund them, Just get your thoughts around that.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing. If even 10% of those assets end up in Robinhood accounts, that's a huge number. Like that's just 12 trillion for 10%. And not to mention that the economy is going to grow. Those are just existing assets that are changing hands. But by some measure, there's going to be at least a 10x increase in the size of the economy due to AI and productivity gains there. So that could be another, over a quadrillion, I guess, added to the economy. About a number, no. So there's going to be a lot of growth coming. I think that wealth transfer and multi-generational finance is inherently a networked thing. So you mentioned education. How do you make sure these people are ready for it? Well, the best is someone in their network, ideally a parent or maybe a sibling or even a grandparent, actually helping them through that process. And I think you've started to see a little hint of this with our credit card app, which is going to become banking very soon. But there's a nice tab in our credit card app that's called the Family tab. And that will basically, right now, I think we're the only ones that are really doing this well. You can manage the spending of your entire family from that tab. And you imagine that goes into your banking, that goes into your investing. Eventually, it goes into the trust and estate elements. And you can kind of, if you're the breadwinner or managing the finances of the family and setting up the trust, it can all be in one place. And I think nobody's really thinking about that from our competitors. I don't think they're thinking about these products as very much, you're the individual user, it's your account, there's no one else. And I think the multi-generational aspect of it is very, very important. I think we can do a good job of that. We've certainly been thinking about the design and kind of the user experience of that, and we have the technology already.
Do you see AI playing a role in the future of helping people understand even just the fundamentals of investing? Whether even if it's just compound interest or index funds, like there's still a lot of people who don't even know what those are.
Yeah.
Do you think you see AI playing a big role in Robinhood at like the education piece more?
Maybe. I think that Robinhood is very successful as a platform and a tool and a network. But yeah, sometimes I think, do we have... Education is really about content. So, it's folks like yourselves making content, making it entertaining. And I think we probably could do a better job of just bringing the best content, even if it's not made by us first party, to our users. So we've been thinking about that as well. Now we kind of like rely on traditional news and media, but more and more of it can be creators or user generated as time goes on. And we just want the best content available to our customers.
Do you see Robinhood building out like some sort of social media elements to the app in the future?
Well, actually, if you look at the first Robinhood app, it was social network for traders. And I think there's actually no new ideas. Every idea that we've had at Robinhood, we've probably like had some version of it 10 years ago or 15 years ago. There was also a local component where you could like see the companies that are headquartered near you and invest in those. So I think there's certainly elements of that could make their way into the product, but there's also like great social media platforms that are out there that we could probably have tighter integrations with. I think the ultimate goal is, how do we get someone the best information so that when they make a trade, they feel like they've done their research, they're informed, and they're equipped to make good decisions. And yeah, I mean, it doesn't necessarily need to be us providing everything ourselves. Could be partnering with others or integrating it ourselves where it makes sense.
Fascinating stuff. Well, Vlad, this went by really quick. I first off want to just thank you for taking the time out of your day, just with everything you got going on. I know you're executing on all these projects. So the fact that you were able to carve out an hour for us means a lot, not only to us, but our community as well.
Yeah.
I mean, just the fact that you're opening up doors to ownership for people that might not have that access if you guys never existed. I think that means a lot to the world and just the change that you could potentially make with Robinhood. And I'm really excited to see how Robinhood continues to grow and evolve over the next decade and into the future. So thanks again.
Absolutely. And yet we should talk about why you're still using a competitor. You haven't been enticed by any of those. You got to go with Mission Viejo local company.
Let's do it. Awesome, man. We appreciate it.
Appreciate you. Yeah. Real quick, I just want to say thank you If you found this conversation with Vlad interesting, like we all did, make sure you share it with a couple of friends. And don't forget, we have over 45 hours of different podcast interviews and topics with the Market Hustle podcast. So go check those out if you haven't already. And if you have any suggestions for future podcast guests or interviews, just send me a quick DM at the Market Hustle. That being said, I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you back in the next episode.